Nasdaq TradeTalks, where we meet with the top thought leaders and strategists in emerging technologies, digital assets, and regulatory landscape and capital markets. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, and joining me on the desk at the Nasdaq market site, we have Trent, CFO of Onsemi, a Nasdaq 100 company, Lindsay Greene, President and CEO of the Brooklyn Navy Yard Building Corp, as well as Rebecca Lindland, Managing Director, Allison Worldwide. We're here to discuss complex global challenges in providing intelligence solutions that contribute to a safer and smarter and cleaner world. It is great to have all of you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks, Brooklyn Navy Yard Development Corp. It is great to have all of you with us, and I'm excited to have this conversation around innovation and sustainability because all of your backgrounds are really unique, and to see the synergies among that, I think is really interesting. Thad, if you could give a high-level overview of Onsemi, celebrating 25 years on Nasdaq, big day.
Yeah, we're here today celebrating the 25th year anniversary of being a publicly traded company, so happy to be here. But Onsemi focuses on intelligent power and intelligent sensing. We primarily focus on auto and industrial, and you can think about our markets being EV enablement, safety features in the car, enabling the data center, so power to the data center, so efficient power to the data center, alternative energy, and then factory automation. So as you think about electrification, that's all good for us, right, into what we're focused on and bringing innovation to our customers.
Yeah, and Lindsay, our backyard, Brooklyn Navy Yard Development Corp, tell us more about that.
So the Navy Yard is a 300-acre urban manufacturing innovation campus. That's what it was when the Navy was there. It built some of the Navy's first versions of everything, from the first diesel ship to the first steamship and even some of the first submariner safety items. And they did it while also being a really inclusive employer. We had some of the original Rosie Riveters at the Navy Yard, and the Navy was some of the first to really employ a lot of technical folks from communities of color also. So we carry that torch today. It's just with startups working in new technologies and new industries, and we also have an on-site high school and employment center, so we maintain that innovation, talent, and physical space to do all of that creating as well.
Right, in the heart of New York City.
We're very proud of that. On the waterfront.
All right, and Rebecca, tell us about your role, Allison Worldwide, where you fit within the space here.
Yeah, so Allison Worldwide is a part of the broader Stagwell network, and we are a communications, marketing, and advisory firm, really looking at what our clients need in this new world and what they are, the challenges that they're facing and opportunities that we see for them.
Yeah, and one of the challenges that we're in a pivotal moment in technology. It is evolving quicker than we have experienced before. Tell us about why it is so pivotal, this particular moment in time.
Yeah, well, I think if you think about everything in your daily life, right, there's more and more technology coming into everybody's daily life. Think about a car being, essentially a driving living room, right? If you think about the technology that's coming in. And then with EVs and the adoption of EVs, the semiconductor content is just exploding when you think about it, and the technology and the software that's required in there. So the innovation that we're seeing from our customers is accelerating, which requires us to accelerate our innovation as well. So, you think about a typical design cycle for an auto, which maybe, a few years ago would be, 3+ years. China today is moving at a different speed. The innovators or the disruptors are moving at a different speed. It's 2 years and narrowing, right? So the technology is moving so fast that if you're driving a car from 5 years ago, it's a different experience than what you get in a car today.
Yeah.
You take that into factory automation, take it into alternative energy. It's, the power requirements as the world is electrified is going up, and that's requiring more innovation at a faster pace.
I mean, they certainly are ambitious goals. Lindsay, when you think about this through the lens of urban innovation, and you think about the emerging trends such as automation, micro-mobility, energy storage, tell us about some of the trends as it relates to the urban environment.
Yeah, so we actually have different startups and young companies at the Navy Yard working on kind of all those different issues. We have carbon capture companies, we have people working on what does it mean to have clean fuel for a cargo ship, right? And we have people doing scooters and e-mobility. So I think a big piece of what we end up seeing is helping them understand how do they get their product to market faster. We have a testing program called Yard Labs, which uses the physical assets of the Navy Yard to allow them to do commercialization product development. And we also help them figure out, who do I need to hire to help me do this? Once I figure out what I'm selling, once it's in the field and I'm trying to produce it, how do I find someone to hire who can help me with that? Because that's not what anybody's learning in school now. So that's why we help them figure out their products, and we help them figure out their talent as well.
One of the challenges as well, Rebecca, is the unpredictable nature of an urban environment and suburban driving, and it's only going to continue to get more autonomous?
Yes, well, it's really interesting to me that we've chosen really urban environments to bring out some of the ADAS systems or some of the self-driving. I live in Los Angeles now, and those Waymo vehicles are everywhere. And you know, when you think about the inputs that a person sees every day, it's people, pets, and anything else you can throw at these vehicles. We really do rely on as fast as possible reactions, and that is chip dependent. It's software dependent. It relies on your LiDAR, radar, your cameras to all react quickly. And as one of the things we joke about is when you drive up to a four-way stop, try and go without making eye contact with any other driver there. And that's the feel that you have when you're in an autonomous vehicle.
Yeah, which is interesting, and I believe in your neck of the woods as well, deliveries, like food deliveries such as Uber,
Oh, yes.
robots that are its own workforce now.
I saw somebody getting an Uber delivery in one of those little carts, the unmanned carts, and a siren went off, and the cart stopped at the proper location to not continue crossing the road. And it was amazing how it could take that auditory response and react to it. But I look at these things like being able to make trucking safer, being able to make long haul trucking safer for drivers, being able to just make general road safety. There's significant goals to try and get zero traffic accidents, and really using technology and using software to make our everyday driving safer, both in a rural, suburban, and urban environment.
And I think it's worth pointing out, you don't need to get to full autonomy to get to that safety.
Yeah.
No, not at
So
all.
you get more safety coming into the car every year today, right, with the sensors coming in. So you've got a lot more safety, and that's really saving the lives, right? So autonomy is further out. The technology exists. Obviously, Waymo's doing it. So it exists today. But for all of us to be an autonomous car is further out. In the meantime, we'll get a lot more safety on the highway.
We're
Like an
already
evolution of a safe cockpit. It's really giving the driver more tools. For trucks, giving the driver an ability to rest or compensate for when he can't rest or she can't rest because she's been stuck in traffic for 12 hours but has a delivery to make.
Yes, absolutely. No, we are definitely seeing more and more adoption of ADAS systems and more comfort with them. As both new drivers, my niece just learned how to drive at 16, and they said, no, you can't rely on your backup camera to park, right? You can't rely on those things to learn how to parallel park. So those are the types of things. We still want people to have the skills should those systems not be there, but then we also do want them to learn how to rely on them, learn how to, when blind spot monitoring, because there's not a standardization for these either. Some vehicles will have a little blinker, or they'll flash, or they'll make a noise, and sometimes it's really intrusive, and you turn them off, which is the worst possible scenario. We definitely don't want people to do that. So we want to make them something that is livable and makes their life safer within the vehicle.
I like that you brought up you need to know the old way and the new way, because that's actually a very fundamental thing we teach in our STEAM Center, which is our high school. We have advanced manufacturing machinery, but then we have the old stuff that looks like it leaks oil.
I love that.
And they get trained on both because that's how you troubleshoot. Like if something goes wrong in the field, you need to be able to revert or have a different set of skills for something that is absent the new shiny technology to be able to move through, because you still have to get your job done.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's interesting, being in the world of finance, trading, everything's electronic now,
Yeah,
right? And
no
when I
more
started my
tickets.
career, we were still doing paper fractions and physical timestamps. I'm not quite sure what that would look like these days if you actually had to call down to the floor and execute it. Well, I mean, we've been digital and electric at Nasdaq since inception, but working with the different exchanges and routes and so forth. I think another thing that we need to consider as well, Thad, is power is becoming the ultimate finite resource, and we're all competing for this power and figuring out how we triage this power and managing that unprecedented demand.
Yeah, so you've got power everywhere, and you think about what's going on in the AI and the data center. The power requirements are going up, by the day, right? So if you look into next year, the power requirements just in the United States to power the investments in the data center, it's the equivalent of somewhere between 13 to 23 million homes in the United States, the power of the homes on an annualized basis, just next year. So if you think about what's got to happen, you've got to think about the efficiency of that power. So we can talk about alternative, all of that, but once you get into the data center, the efficiency, once you're into those racks, is really got to improve. So, a 1% improvement is huge. Yeah. And the hyperscalers are going to drive this, right? Because they're paying the power bills and the cooling bills for the data centers. Yeah. So, as you think about all of that power, it's got to be the most efficient, and it's at different levels than we've ever seen, in history, right? Is that you just can't have inefficient power technology along that whole power tree.
And Linda, you also have to consider sustainable solutions as well.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's part of why the innovation at sort of every possible thing, like leave no stone unturned, is really important. You have to be figuring out how to be more energy efficient and use different energy for a cargo ship, and the deliverista bike, and the car that I drive on the weekend, and the building, right? We have buildings built in the 1800s.
Yeah.
And it's like, what does the modern version of that building look like? And we need all of that. And you talked about all the data centers and new technology being the equivalent of 23 million homes. And then you also remember that we also still have to build millions and millions of homes because we don't have enough housing in the country. And those homes probably need more power than they used to because of all the devices we're putting into them. And so it's really important that you have innovation at all these different critical points, and it's why we have 550 companies at the Navy Yard. They're all small because so many of them are working on very different things.
Right.
You
And they have
also
the flexibility of smaller companies to be able to execute on that.
Yeah, in addition, you have the reshoring of manufacturing back to the United States. That is another power hog, right, if you think about it.
I live that every day.
If you think about factory automation, that's electrification, right? So, and as we move in more and more into robotics and AI robotics, it's going to require more power. So everybody's focused on the data center. You got EVs, you got data center, you got factory automation in the United States. It's all driving more power consumption.
Yes. The number one thing most of our new companies come to the Navy Yard and ask for is more power than is already in the space.
Yeah.
And they're here to employ people at a really high wage. They're working on a problem that is good for the world, and they love the bones of this 1800 era building, but it needs more power. And so we're both trying to figure out how do we deliver that to them as their landlord, in addition to supporting their work in other ways.
Well, it's capital intensive. These
It's
are
super capital
long-term investments, which is why public-private partnerships certainly help to facilitate that. But one more thing in the equation is safety.
Yes.
As well. So you have a lot of competing priorities.
Right.
For the resources.
Well, and when we think about just beyond automotive, because Allison and Stagwell looks at many more industries, but I am within viewing distance of the Pacific Palisades, and Altadena is not far from where I live either. When we think about rebuilding those houses and those companies and those factories, all that, and bringing back manufacturing, let's build in a way that is more efficient, more sustainable, fire resilient, for instance.
Yeah.
And then while you're rebuilding, let's throw in a 220-volt charger that can charge your car, on a level 2 at home, or at least put the wiring in to do that, so that we can become more self-sufficient at home when we think about electric vehicle adoption. So I think that there's really opportunity in the marketplace and in where we are today to build in sustainable, by sustainable I mean long-term.
Small s, as I say.
Right, exactly, a small s manner. We can put solar panels on. I lived in Connecticut. My house had solar panels on it. My electric bill went down tremendously, and my heating bill went down because I put new insulation in my house. So things like this, thinking about how we power our homes and how we employ HVAC systems and making all that, and making smart homes also. Those are safer, right? We can have better alarm systems, better use of, we were talking the other day about using your pool water as a sprinkler system within your house. These types of innovations, we have incredible opportunities, and what you're doing at Brooklyn Navy Yard is a really good example of that.
But I think it's important to remember that all those innovations, they have higher upfront costs, and it's a bigger strain on the grid. But for the average consumer and even a property owner, it ends up being a financially important change for us to make.
Yes.
Running a building that is still running on oil and old electricity and doesn't have any cooling system is costing us more money than if the building had better insulation, better windows, a better roof, and a different HVAC system. That would actually be long-term smarter for us from a financial perspective.
Right.
And so it's important to push on those levers.
Well, I mean, to your point as well, it's the upfront costs, and it's a capital intensive business. When you're looking at those types of structures and so forth, I would also argue that having consistent policy and regulation around these emerging technologies, especially when we think about our AI strategy, that would also help to solve some of these complex issues.
Absolutely, they have to get solved. I mean, the grid can't support it today, right? And I think you're going to have to look at microgrids. You're going to have to, the technology's got to change. And back to the innovation. That's why innovation's got to move so fast right now, is because the requirements are going up faster than the innovation is, right? So our customers are having to innovate faster than they ever have, right? I mean, we're seeing it in all applications, whether it's agriculture, areas that you didn't typically have a lot of innovation and a lot of technology. Everything is now bringing technology in and moving at a much faster pace because the world is requiring it at a faster pace, right? If not, we're going to have things breaking.
Right, and that goes back to the programs that you have at the Navy Yard and thinking about the skill sets of the workforce and making sure that you have the appropriate skill set and training to be able to service and maintain these technologies that are getting deployed quicker than perhaps the workforce or the American curriculum can keep up with.
Yeah, and that's why we've invested in the STEAM Center. That's why we, instead of just doing job connections and placement, we are building out a training center that will basically be purpose-built to serve technicians needed for the hardware of the future. But we're trying to develop and plan for that training center while the technology is happening. So it's one part economic analysis about what are the jobs of the future, what are the skills needed for that, and another part, okay, based on that, where does it make sense to have this in our campus? What is the building going to need to be able to train people to work in a data center, to be an EV charger technician, to be an HVAC technician? So we're doing all of that because that's important. That's the role we play. We're a mission-driven economic development entity. We're supposed to help the companies grow, but a key piece of that is helping them figure out how they hire. And it's usually the number two thing, other than just a place to manufacture and have an ecosystem of product developers. The number two thing they care about in being in New York, and why would you manufacture in New York, is because the talent is here. Mm-hmm. They want to know that they have smart, fast learners who want to work in their companies, and they're excited to engage in telling everyone, okay, here are the things you need to know. Our STEAM Center, the curriculum is developed by a lot of the companies at the Navy Yard because they have a direct impact. It was like, well, at least I know some of the people will know what I'm talking about when they come work on my factory floor. Right. That's value add to them, and it's great.
We've heard of community college systems in certain states teaming up with companies locally within their state to help develop that curriculum and then place them with the companies that they have partnerships with. And I think that's a critical point to make, because when you have to make those decisions between community college, traditional school, trade school, in the community college system, you kind of get the best of both worlds.
That's right. That's right. Look, where we think about putting design centers, we look for talent, right? We look at where's a talent pool we can draw from. Where can we make investments in local universities to help with that talent pool? And that's on a global basis, right? So wherever we're selecting our kind of mega centers that we want to have our innovation, we're thinking about the infrastructure around it. How do we bring people in how do we train the local community, on these advanced technologies?
Yeah, I mean, you think full circle about the economy, these are well-paying jobs.
Very
salary, well-paying jobs, right. And with the opportunity to continue to upskill once you have that, if you have the engineering background and you're also able to do your job from a maintenance perspective.
Absolutely.
You could just continue to upskill.
Well, and I love the fact that you're also putting people in jobs that they love, that they're passionate about. And frankly, that saves money too, right? Because you're not going to have a drain of talent when they go to pursue what they actually wanted to do.
Right.
These are people that will stay in this role, making our lives safer, making our lives more efficient, because they're passionate about what they do. And I love that, really feeding into the trade schools and rewarding those people that say, I love to work with my hands, it's amazing.
Right, there's different flavors of smart. Yes. And I think we got away from that being common knowledge, and we changed to everyone needing a bunch of alphabets behind their last name like I have. I'm really smart at processing information, but I am, unless I go through our training program, not going to be able to know my way around a CNC machine, right? Computer numerically controlled fill in the blank, because they're everywhere. And it's important to recognize that about everyone and invest at all spectrums of the education and training ecosystem, so you have that and you reward all the different flavors of smart. And it's also how you talk about the new version of the middle class. I think people have an assumption that because it's highly technical, it therefore isn't accessible and requires a lot of degrees. It doesn't. Someone has to teach it to you, but you can learn that in the context of on-the-job training through an apprenticeship or in a program like some of the ones we and other community colleges offer. But they're very accessible. You just have to be a smart person who is technically comfortable.
Yeah, right. And to wrap up here in the last 15 seconds, Thad, when you think about it from the enterprise perspective, you're starting to see more of those partnerships with local universities to your point, and then the employment programs that come along with it sets up for a nice career.
Absolutely, and as you said, these are well-paying jobs, right? We have large manufacturing sites, well-paying jobs, right? We have R&D centers, well-paying jobs. So wherever we can invest in that community, we'll do it.
And it comes back into the economy.
That's right.
And that's
Yes,
the whole
that's
point.
what we all want.
Exactly. All right, appreciate everyone's insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.